Hello and welcome back to the Elite Transformations podcast. Richard, how are you doing today?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. What was your highlight of the week
So
far?
On the weekend, I went camping to the New Forest.
Nice.
And it was magical. There was a massive rainbow, full 180 rainbow,
That's
which was
cool.
cool. And then an amazing sunset. When I woke up in the morning, there was deer and horses running around.
Nice.
And it was an amazing sunrise. So that was magical. That was properly cool. Yeah, definite highlight.
I love that. That's
You?
nice. I like the weather. I like that we've suddenly got a bit of an Indian summer. I do really like that. I like that the temperatures have cracked up again. Yeah. However, I find fashion at this time of the year challenging because you dress in the winter. You dress for like winter in the morning, and then by 4 o'clock you're like, "Well, I'm perspiring so much. I'm so hot."
Yeah,
and then you're
I
like, "Why?"
experience the same thing.
And
Agree.
then it's 24 degrees, and I should be wearing shorts.
I come home in shorts and t-shirt, and I unpack my bags, and I've got like Arctic clothes on for the morning, and just like pulling them out of a clown's bag.
But yes, so I'm very grateful for the weather. And I'm willing to be accepting of the fact that, the fashion is a little challenging.
The plan today, let's crack on with it, is to talk about healthy habit stacking, how we can create healthy habits, how we can stack onto other habits and embed them importantly so we can maintain them for lifelong success. Mm-hmm. Elite Transformations, we are definitely not a short-term fix. We're committed to improving lifelong changes in our clients and our customers. Yeah. So let's talk about healthy habit stacking and why it's so important. And where do we start?
I think first of all, when we're looking at considering to upgrading or adapting our healthy habits, we have to first look at becoming aware and observing our habits that we already do. So a habit is a behaviour which is done on autopilot without thinking. Mm-hmm. So that's a habit. And we are often not aware of them. So some habits can be helpful, some habits can be harmful. And the first step is looking at is this helpful or is this harmful? So asking yourself the question, when behaving in some way, does this serve me? That's the first thing, to observe those things and to observe those habits. And then if we choose to, we begin to look at potentially transitioning them. But the first thing with everything we do is creating awareness around what we are doing and then asking ourselves, does this serve me? Does this not? Why am I doing it?
And we have to be able to first become aware of what we do so we have our own starting block. Mm-hmm. We have to have a base to start from so then we can just implement some sort of healthy habit change or just improvement, whatever that might be. Yeah. It's no good to watch your favourite influencer or someone from a magazine or your celebrity and just adopt their complete routine, because that could be so much further from our routine. We can of course take influence or we can be inspired by them, or broaden our ideas.
We can aspire towards that too.
But first we must become aware of what we are doing in our lives, our lifestyles, what our behaviours, how our behaviours react, and the effect of our behaviours. So then we can start adapting from there. Yeah,
and like you mentioned, some of the habits that we have draw us closer to a goal, or some of them can move us away or kind of hold us in that space. So it's again exploring that and working out what's helpful, what's not so helpful, what am I going to adjust, loosen, observe. We touched on this last episode, but we see, again, we were talking about alcohol. Often when they arrive home from work, there's that habit that is a habitual thing where they make themselves a drink, or they do something like that. So again, it's a habit and it's their way of kind of compartmentalizing their day, for example.
Almost kind of sectioning off duties or work into personal time, me time.
That's the transition.
That's that marker, isn't it?
Yeah, and so what we'd be looking at that is it's a very embedded habit, and again, we don't necessarily want to say, right, cut that out. It would be looking at, again, if we were looking at adaptation in that situation, it would be maybe measure the gin rather than free
pouring it.
Might be one.
Glug, 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 glug.
Switch to a non-alcoholic one. Change the whatever is in there for a lower calorie version of something.
We'd be trying to keep the habit, but just improve the habit so it becomes healthier.
Yes.
Right? So if we could keep the same glass, so have the same feel, put the same amount of ice in there, put the same amount of tonic in there, put less, the alcohol in that part would be the thing which is unhealthy or not bring us closer towards our goal. So if we could reduce the alcohol or omit the alcohol, but even reducing it is a step closer.
Exactly.
But if we can, and then put the same slice of something in there, we still get to, that habit still serves us to section off duties or work into personal.
Yeah, and
right?
And you're still having that situation that you're indulging in something that feels really nice to you, that feels, that either compartmentalizes your day, breaks up your day, but you're still doing that. And what we're looking at is the gentle adaptation of switching that slightly. So again, we can replace that habit that might be not particularly helpful habit, so it's drawing you away from your goal, with something that's a more helpful alternative. So some environments, like we were talking about ending work, what we're looking at is how do you update that with something that is more helpful, promotes wellness, that kind of thing, and is less harmful overall.
Draws you closer towards
that goal. So another example I can think of, which is not necessarily fitness related, but I would say it's overall well-being related, through personal experience, is flossing. The dentist is always like, you need to floss more, and I'm like, yes, I brush my teeth twice a day every day. Dentists don't come at me, but the way I've worked on stacking it is I actually floss before I brush my teeth. So I floss because I like the feeling of how lovely and clean my teeth feel after I've brushed them, but there seems to be some kind of breakdown between brushing my teeth then flossing my teeth. So I've just reverse engineered it and said I'm going to floss my teeth first. That's better than no flossing, I think. And then I brush my teeth afterwards. So I get the reward of that nice clean feeling, and I still manage to, I still floss beforehand. So for me, that's something that really works in terms of building a habit on top of something. So again, when we're looking at habit stacking, I already brushed my teeth, so I'm going to stack onto that. And actually this time I'm going to stack before I do the other one, the flossing first, because there's something that happens between toothbrushing and then going to floss that I'm like, I haven't got time.
Yeah, something happens as an excuse to forget. I talking of my experience, it can easily just vanish. So you mentioned habit stacking, which is going to be the next step for us in this conversation. So habit stacking, correct me if I'm wrong, is becoming aware of a sequence of behaviours essentially. So we have one behaviour, it leads to another behaviour, leads to another behaviour. Habit stacking would be becoming aware of a point in that chain and then implementing an additional or a diversion sort of habit to change the outcome of where we're going, or just to include something else into there, right?
Yeah. So it's an already embedded pattern. There's a very good book, James Clear talks about obviously habits in Atomic Habits. He's very good. So imagine an analogy. So imagine you've got two paths, and again, this is kind of like from an NLP lens.
Neural linguistic programming.
Very good. Imagine you've got two paths, and you've got one that's a really well-trodden path, and then you've got one that's all sort of grown over and brambly, building an image in your head. We're naturally, the well-trodden path is well-trodden because we go down it every single time. So if you think about any kind of habit, whether it's thinking, whether it's a habitual, making a drink, whatever it is, that's a very well-trodden path. When we're looking at forming new habits, what we have to do, the extrinsic, so again, the extrinsic way of, when we're talking about flossing, we're going to floss first, that pathway towards flossing, the extrinsic takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of time, a little bit of adaptation.
Trample it down.
Or trample in the new path.
In the new path,
exactly that. So until it becomes a well-trodden path, and then the other path will grow over and you'll be less inclined to do that path. So again, if we're looking at adapting or changing a behavior over time, what we're wanting to do is choose a new pathway and then create that new pathway. And then that becomes implicit. So it becomes your natural way of thinking.
So I did this. I needed to increase my protein intake.
Yeah.
So my implicit habit was to, when I wake up, go downstairs, coffee cup out, make a coffee, drink it.
Yeah.
That's implicit. That happens on autopilot for me.
Yeah.
I stacked on top of that habit. Whilst I got the cup out, I got a protein shaker out.
Yeah, nice.
Whilst I got the coffee out, I got the protein powder out, tops up, and started making a protein shake alongside my coffee. So the addition of the stacking, getting the protein out, that was the extrinsic part of it. Until and for a few weeks that was an effort. Like I'd have to talk myself into it every time. It's like,
you can do it.
Come on, like you just got to pick that from out there and put that in there. It's not that hard. But it was amazing how much much resistance there was, and how conscious I had to be to ingrain it. And that's treading down a new path.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect
Until I mean, it was only 2 weeks or so. I mean, probably even a bit, like 10 days, let's say, until that just became implicit, and it became a completely autopilot habit.
Yeah.
And then at that point, it didn't become any effort either.
Yeah.
It became the norm. So that new path had been built.
Yeah, perfect. That's a very good.
I've got my implicits and extrinsics correctly.
Implicit, extrinsic, very good.
Implicit and extrinsic, yeah, there we go. So habit stacking.
There we go, that's very good. It's just understanding that and understanding what the benefits of stacking on top of something that we already do is really helpful. So another way, if we're increasing neat, for example, stick the kettle on and walk up and down the kitchen. Like there's something that you're already doing, so stack on top of that in a helpful way.
Driving to the shops. You go into the shops anyway, just rather than finding the first car park spot possible. So implicit, driving in, finding car park space. Extrinsic, hops in there. Just drive to the side of the car park.
And then
just drive a bit further away. And I mean, and you'll get like another 200 steps. It's minimal. You're not going to notice a change there and then in energy expenditure, really, or body weight reduction. But all of these teeny tiny 1%s stack up over a longer period of time until it's like, oh, boom, like, wow, my trajectory has really increased and I'm really achieving what I set out to achieve and my progress is greater.
Well, we're making incremental micro steps. So if you think, instead of the trajectory kind of being like on a curve like this, you're making those steps that go up. But with each one of those changes, you're still focusing and navigating towards kind of the goal, as it were, which is helpful.
And we get to constantly, and that's the progression in most things we do as humans. I mean, particularly, we can relate that directly to fitness. You can get a little bit faster, then you plateau there.
Yeah.
Running, for example, and then you have to push yourself that little bit harder again. You adapt what you're doing.
Yep.
And then you get faster again. You get this reaction.
Yeah.
So it is this kind of stepping style of line graph, isn't it?
Yeah, rather than it being kind of that straight curve. I think what's brilliant about, again, there's this difference between, I think we'll cover it moving forward, but motivation and dedication. I think when we start something new, we can be motivated towards something. And then when it gets a bit grindy, we have to rely on our dedication, which is I'm choosing to do this. Yeah. And again, that's a thought pattern around I'm choosing to park further away rather than, I'm just going to park here. And again, it's understanding that, the difference between the motivation and the dedication and the discipline, and that is important. But what we begin to see, which is really helpful with habit stacking, is that over time, what we first do over time, when you begin to see the results, you then are more motivated, and then you double down in that. You're encouraged, which is yielding more results over time. But again, everything that we do isn't this kind of short, sharp, snappy. But over time, you begin to see, that's the build up, that's that step.
It's the repetition. We have to do things over and over again, which can be unglamorous.
Monotonous, we call it the
and
unglamorous
monotonous,
grind.
the unglamorous grind of repeating these, whatever they are, because they're all dependent upon the one individual, these healthy habits to repeat to gain a result. So it's the repetition, and again that goes back to your path analogy of just going down one or going down a different path and just treading down the new path over and over and over again until it becomes autopilot, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does become autopilot. So yeah, we can relate this to all areas of our health. If we want to improve something, it's about making those micro changes and forming those micro habits that improve sleep or training or consistency or intensity.
Yeah, food selection when you're going around the supermarket to encourage more colourful, fibrous, fresh foods.
Like we've touched on, all of those kind of things. Water consumption, instead of
Yeah,
saying, right, I'm going to drink 2 litres of water the first time, I'm going to make a massive change. And obviously, if anybody has experienced that...
I've done that.
Yeah. Drinking 2 litres of water a day, when you haven't drunk 2 litres of water a day, basically results in you peeing all day. If anyone else has...
That's disruptive.
It's very disruptive because the body is not used to intaking that much water, and it gets rid of it really fast. So, again, incremental steps to improving that and different ways of, again, building in when you're going to drink is a bit more helpful and not such a shock on the body.
I've done that so many times. To be like, oh, I must, and yeah, become aware of my behaviour or my or lack of habit or drinking. Think, no, I must do this right. I'm going to go get a 2 litre bottle of water, and I must drink that before lunchtime. It's like, that was a bad idea.
So yeah, it's going, and again, like everything that we do is about going really gently, looking at it with a compassionate lens, and looking at it as we talk about that unglamorous grind, but of, over time experiencing the payoff for that, which is, it's not as glamorous as doing something really quickly, but what it does mean is that you're building lifelong habits and longevity in life, and a lifestyle that's a lifestyle that is sustainable and maintainable, which I think is really important. These are one of the many tools that allow someone to have the autonomy over their amount of health in their life and what they do. So, yeah, big tool, that one. Right, anything else to add? I don't think so.
No, I think we've covered all we wanted to cover.
Yeah. Thank you for listening, and join us again soon.
Thanks so much. See ya.
See ya.